It's 7 o'clock. We have another election for chair. Anytime you want. Yes.
We're live.
Good evening, committee. Good evening, committee. We get rid of the. Welcome to the Finance and Governance on the 15th of November 2023. And welcome to anybody that's watching on YouTube. I think Councillor Legg, did you want to bring a motion to nominate a new chair? No?
Well, if there's going to be a vacancy, yeah. I propose Dean Gray.
Okay. Straight into the agenda. What apologies and absences have we got?
We have apologies chair from Councillor Alex Berman, Councillor Graham Lambert and Councillor Lucy Hanlon.
Okay, question? Councillor Legg.
No, have they not put any alternatives through, substitute?
I did see an email from Councillor Thurman asking for substitute, and then we replied. Graham's on holiday, I think.
And no substitute for councillor.
No substitute for him, so no. Yeah, it was.
I'm disappointed that there isn't volunteers for it.
I'm sure you will be. Given it's a small agenda as well.
Councillor Nickinson is on his way.
Yes, he's just been delayed.
We just need to approve those.
Yeah. Beginning.
Thanks.
Yeah. We do them, apologies,
Proposing a second to approve those.
Proposer is Councillor Wakeling, seconded by Councillor Hope. All those in favour?
Sorry, Chair, I don't know what those was, so I can't.
That is absent, is,
Oh, no, yeah, fine. That's it, you know, Mr. Chair.
and late coming.
And they comes, yeah. I'm parent duties, I'm afraid.
Give me some time, Councillor.
Yeah.
Item 3, do we have any declarations of interest?
None have been received and no dispensations have been received.
We're good. Item 4 is the minutes of the last meeting. You've all read them. Anybody got any comments on those minutes? Hello.
Chair, I propose.
Proposed by Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor. Company words together tonight. All those in favour of those minutes?
That is unanimous, Chair.
Item 5 is councillor questions and statements. Do we have any pre-notified?
There has been none pre-notified, Chair.
Do you have any councillors want to make any comments, questions? No? Okay. Item 6 is public questions. Do we have any public questions pre-notified?
Again, Chair, none pre-notified.
Moving on to the substantive couple of items. Item 7 is the grant application, and we've got one grant application from Dorset Community Action.
Thank you, Chair. Members will obviously have that application for this one within their agendas. Unfortunately, there isn't a representative from the group who is able to make it here today. But there was question around some of the other additional funding streams into this project. And although we've tried to ascertain some more information, Chair, we don't believe there's any more funding which gets in addition to this grant which goes to this project, but we can't say that 100%.
Followed by Councillor Harris.
Thank you very much, Chair. It was me who submitted the question in advance around the additional funding for this application. Given that it is taking place in Littlemore, you have the big four lottery grants available to spend on projects like this in Littlemore. I was really interested to understand why they're not supporting this application, and why it's coming to us instead. And I think it's really key to understand that. Why are we expected to pay nearly £3,000 for a project that's going to benefit just 20 people, when there's funding available to deliver such projects like this already in Lismore? And I think that's a really key piece of information that this committee, or me personally, needs an answer to. So I would actually be making a motion tonight to defer this application to the next meeting, so we can have that information to hand.
Thanks.
I would second that completely.
Okay, so we've got a motion to defer. Does anybody else, councillor Nicholson?
I think, Chair, this reiterates the point we have made in the past, that for these sort of important grant applications, it is important that people do attend, because, you know, councillor Hope has got a valid question, which I think could have been answered had we had somebody here to answer it. And I hope that, I think if we're looking at the policy on this, I think it's important we do include the fact that if people can't come, then we do have to defer it. I can understand why people maybe not be able to make it, but I think we should be in a position to defer these things.
Yeah. Do we, Deputy Clerk, do we know why they're not attending?
They've indicated they are actually holiday this week.
Well, all of them. Okay, sorry. Okay, so we've got a motion to defer this application from councillor Hope, seconded by councillor Harris. I'll take that first, and if that fails, then we'll go on to debate. So you've heard what both councillors have said. All those in favour of deferral?
That is unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous.
Chair, could I just ask that maybe the application form has a little note down the bottom that says it might be important for you to attend committee meeting that discusses in order to answer the question, so that they're aware of it.
Yeah. I don't think it's on the form, but I think we do tell them that when we're notified. We'll get it on.
I think on the form might be useful too.
Yeah.
This point, the application.
Yeah, I think it needs to be more than just might be. I think it should be on the form that it is a requirement of people, and if they can't, then, you know, we do defer. I think it should be stated quite, you know, quite largely. I think, because this is public money we're spending. I think it's important that you know, taxpayer, you know, can see that we have been in a position to debate this with full information.
I tend to agree. Points made. We'll go with that. I did want to widen the debate slightly on. Is there been a formal request to governments to review this policy?
I heard rumors, but I think it's a formal question.
Well, we certainly discussed it in the budget working group that there's a need, because although the grant buys 50,000, it was 60 this year because of the SLAs. We've got some money left, but I think there's a need to focus the grant policy. So if you're happy to take that on board, I think there are people here in this committee that will contribute to that, either by electronically or get together. But there are certain key things, I think, that we've learned this year that we probably need to do.
Well, she'll take away some action.
Chairman, we also have been discussing whether there should be a separate subgroup that actually looks at these ideas. So that could be another part of the agenda.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it with you to okay, moving on, the substantive item is the quarterly finance report. And to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and keep this brief, but just to pick up on a few points, if I may, around the budget monitoring. The budget monitoring is obviously a tool that allows members to review the budgets and the actions against those budgets. This allows us to take litigation action should there be any problem areas within the budget which requires some sort of action to correct any circumstances which arise which we have been unaware of. Those mitigation actions can then be used as evidence, for example, when looking at service reviews or looking at the model of delivery further down the line. So I mention that first because when we have a look at the underspend overall, we are looking at a projected underspend of 193,000 for the end of this financial year, which on the face of it looks like we're in a healthy position. If you look at the income, it's looking like we're going to generate more income overall by £50,000, which again looks like that's a good position to be in. We're generating more income than we budgeted for. But I just want my members to be aware that there are other factors which sit behind that. For example, the debt chairs, the income didn't reach its budget for this year because in July, for example, the income we received was only £8,000, and in previous years in July it was £38,000. So there are some things which sit underneath these figures, but I just want to give some members some reassurance that those areas are being looked at and they're being proactively managed. The budget holders do look at their budgets now really quite vigorously, and they do take management actions to correct an area which is overspent, and they are proactive. You'll see your facts that they do guidance to ensure that the budget's available and they can manage those budgets to ensure that there's no overspend. Also, you've got to consider that there's some mitigation actions in terms of where income hasn't been achieved, then budget holders are actively ensuring that the expenditure relating to that income is also kept under control and also becomes under budget so that the net effect balances each other off, so that there isn't that big area of underspend or overspend where it becomes a problem which we need to take corrective action. And there's also quite an important point just to raise that some of the mitigation actions for this financial year's budgets will be rectified as part of the budget setting process for 2024-25. And through you, Chair, after I just finish the next couple of points, maybe the budget working group maybe just give an update on the work which they've been doing over the last couple of weeks, because that work, they have been looking at the last year's figures, they have been looking at the current year's figures, and that formulates next year's figures where they can amend the budgets and correct any areas which just need a bit of adjusting. I have to say the managers deserve a great deal of credit. They are vastly improved in the way that they go about their budget monitoring. They are much more open and transparent, and I think that has proved to be allowed the budget working group meetings to be much more open and honest without, dare I say, things being hidden which they may or may not have done in the past. And I know Sinead's been working closely with her managers. I certainly have with mine to develop them in these skills, and I think the budget working group will see that as actually proved positive with the work which we've undertaken in the last couple of weeks. So we are in a good position, Chair. There are areas which are being corrected, and I'll probably just hand over to you and the budget working group just to
Thank you. So we're 2 out of 3 meetings down in the budget. Sorry, Councillor Ward, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to say that I totally agree with Ian. The managers have been very, very good, and I think we've had a very constructive meeting, and I think they should all be congratulated.
Anybody else before I?
Yeah, just to reiterate, just to thank you, Councillor Graves. I think you obviously handled these meetings well. I think Councillor Martin would agree that it's been very constructive, but it's been one led, but some very good debate. We'll picked up on a number of items which can be adjusted, and I think, yeah, thank you to you for the part by moving to where we are with it.
So we're two out of 3 down. So there's a 3rd meeting still to find out things that we didn't absolutely nail on the day. So we've got, let me give you an example. RNLI. So the RNLI are pushing us for substantially more money. We are not happy with the way that process is going. So I've asked the officers to go away and look at alternatives. So there are 1 or 2 of those niggly things to iron out. The 3rd meeting, which the budget working group will come back with a very firm proposal, so you can vote on it here first, and then everything will go forward to full council. I have to say, I mean, when you're in the last year of a council, and it's a difficult, tricky process trying to balance it. I feel the managers have got under the skin this year, and it's much more collegiate in the way it's been achieved. And we've had one or two raised words, but nothing majorly. And I think it's credit to those and the coaching they've received, and they're learning as well. And we are as well, uncovering, some of the descriptors and what's that, that I've missed before. So we should be in great shape. So we'll take any questions on the Q2 forecast or the budget working group. Thanks, Dickinson.
Ian, did you say that the deck chairs was £30,000 down?
So overall, they are down for the year, we could sort of say the years over the deck chairs for obvious reasons, the years over, overall £80,000.
80.
But based on that, Councillor Dickinson, you were right. In July, we were 30,000 down in that 1 month compared to last year. We received 38,000 in July 2022 and only 8 because it was a bad month in 2023.
Weather.
You're just saying it's definitely just the weather. There's no other factors involved.
Well, August was up, so
Yeah, so it just seemed a large total, that was all to me, but just the weather.
Well, deck chairs not in lounges.
yeah, I'm on.
It seemed a large amount
Yeah,
for that one.
I think when the sun shines, you do have to make deck chairs make hay while the sun shines.
Were we staff short? Did they not collect the money that month?
No patrons.
They won't go down. I think it's twofold, Councillor Dickinson. It's very easy to say July 2023 was very bad in terms of weather. And it could have been 2022 with exceptional weather. I must admit, I can't remember what July was like. So those two together may.
No, thanks for answering the question.
Absolutely.
Mine's not a question, it's just a complimentary comment I felt about the way that Appendix C has been presented. I do find these figures easier to understand when they come this way. And indeed, I knew all about the budget, if you like, or the forecast, and a drop in income in July. Well, I didn't know it was July, but during the year, in the deck chairs. The one thing that concerns me overall, and there's one particular exception to this, is that when we show that staffing costs are down, I just think, and how does this affect services? In one case, of course, catering kiosks, whilst permanent staffing costs were down, temporary staffing or contract staffing went up enormously, presumably to cover it. And that was my question, really. Were we sort of paying more for people to help serving, but less in the management of them? Which in case it's not exactly one covering the other.
So earlier this year we had an internal promotion which then created a catering supervisor vacancy. We did try to recruit that post but unsuccessful. So we did replace those hours with casual hours, so there was still staff in there, which is carrying a vacancy within the supervisor permanent staff.
So did some of our staff from other areas take over some of the management duties because of that?
We had an internal, one member of staff had an honorarium for picking up additional duties.
Okay.
I think it's important also because the underspent in staffing, there are two different models we use. So if you look at parks and open spaces, they would use casual staff in the summer. We use casual staff in the catering, but things like I'm answering the second part of the question, which is, do things slip? The democratic officer vacancy, which has been a real problem, I know that's put other team members under a lot of pressure. So whilst we've saved that money, because we haven't been able to find anybody temporary, and other people have had to fill that vacancy with either stopping doing their day job to do that work. This agenda, for instance, would have been done by a democratic officer, but it's being picked up by the management. So there is a price to pay, I think, for not necessarily the things we can backfill, but some of the key, I think that's the only one that is a key vacancy. I think we now recruited on, yes, we're now recruited, so it starts very soon. Hello.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just going back to one point that Councillor Dickinson made. I spoke to Will about that exact point, and it is purely the weather. Although there are vacancies within that team, because of the weather and the demand, it hasn't affected the service. Because of the weather also, it affected the financial return. Will's got weather monitoring that can show the difference between the weather this season and last season, which then accounts to the downside in taking. So that information is available within the resourcing. Second point I wanted to make was Councillor Howard Legg's point exactly is where we're carrying some vacancies this year, I think we have been lucky that the service demand has been lower because of the weather and the impact it's had. So again, I understand that our resort team were carrying quite a few vacancies within their posting and casual staff, but because of the weather was poor, they didn't need those staff on those days. So again, services weren't impacted, but had it been a glorious summer, services would have been impacted. So it's something to consider when we're setting next year's budget. I wouldn't want to see any cuts to those levels.
We have done that in terms of the managers that made that clear when we've been setting the budgets.
I'm just looking after the ones under services. You're right with me, Martin. The last point I wanted to make is on the tumble down expenditure. And I can't see reference here, maybe it's coming in the Q3 report, to the £100,000 grant they've just received and how that affects their income balance, because that will drastically turn the picture on how they're performing over there with their income. Because it was reported at services and there's been a press release that says Tumble Down's just received £100,000 towards the building projects, which is brilliant news to help deliver the agenda at Tumble Down.
Chair, just to pick up on that point, we obviously haven't received the funds as at the end of Q2, so we will receive it in Q3, and that will be shown as income. But obviously there'll be an increase in the expenditure, which will be that grant will be used for. So I don't think the income, unfortunately, will give us that better picture in terms of purely income, but it will show the increase in income and expenditure as part of that project.
Just to reassure everybody on the budget working group didn't specifically discuss roles or what the structure is, because that's HR position, but the managers were really clear about what the managers were asking for, and that will be taken forward to HR. So within the budget proposal, the staffing has been accounted for. There are some changes, but they'll go through to HR. Councillor Dickinson, did you?
I think probably just to say in terms of things like the debt change, I think one of the debates we had at budget working group is this question of deciding which services are what I call services in terms of what in terms of deck chairs. I mean, we 5 deck chairs because we've got beaching, etc. And probably even depending on the weather, we're probably never likely to make a lot of money out of deck chairs. Because there is this huge weather factor which can influence it. I think we have to make a distinction, where we want to have a deck chair service, and we have to accept that maybe that has to be funded, because to remove deck chairs probably would be quite a traumatic decision. We can see it, the reputation might not be too good. But wait, so I think that's an area where we have to accept that that we know we're going to make a huge amount of money. We're going to be lucky to break even. Having said that, I mean, I've come back to my problems about catering. The only point I would make is that we did look at the outturn. And again, this can be affected, but we are assuming that in the last 6 months we are going to make half of the revenue that we made in the summer months. Now, I mean, this is just a shot in the dark. Who knows? We can only look at past trends on this and hope that it turns out. But that is an area where there can be some risk in there, and that is not something that we class as a service. That is something which is technically trading that we want to make money out of, because other people can pick up that service if they wanted to. Whereas things like the deck chairs and making tumble down where, the discussion there, we accept that it is something we need to do. And I think that distinction was something we made out very much out of that budget review.
Yes, well said. And I think if you look at deck chairs, we don't account for any staff costs in that budget. So we are by definition not treating it as, although it does show income, if you were to apply the real costs, it wouldn't make any money. Councillor Wakeling, followed by Councillor Lake.
Thank you. My question is about the debitors on here, which is on the back page. We haven't got a summary, but it appears in the last 3 months, we've reduced PFOS money from 147,000 to 38,000, which is an enormous reduction in debt. So I think well done to Rob Sis for chasing down the people who owed the residents of this town money. I'm assuming we haven't got a summary because we have no aged debt at the moment. This is all quite fresh and new. No aged debt, so that is a really good thing to have cleared. I know the borough carried some debts for considerable periods of time, and the fact that we've actually now got a 0 aged debt is a great result.
That's because we've got a policy that works. What do you think, Rob? Did you want to enter that?
Nothing to add, yeah, we have a good solid process, good officers who follow through that process, so we're fortunate that we are able to have that.
Councillor Lake. And then Councillor Aaron. Oh, Councillor Aaron. Okay.
Can we go back to this grant, the tumble down? Is it a revenue grant or is it an income? Sorry, is it a capital grant or is it a revenue grant?
I was going to answer that question anyway, in terms of what I was going to say.
Please do, Councillor Harris.
I was going to respond to Councillor. Yes, the extra £100,000 is clearly now with us in terms of its potential spend, and the plans are for the building to be starting work in April. So the building that we're using the money for, we've got £100,000 already set aside, there's further £100,000, and the work will be starting in April to build the additional room that we need to carry out our duties.
Thank you, Karen.
I like it. I'm over there.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Dickinson, sorry.
Thank you. Chair, could I just ask, Councillor Harris,
Please.
is that money ring fenced for that building, or is it £100,000 to tumble down?
It's given to us to help us with that building. So if the building will cost us about £250,000. So
Yeah.
it's all for that building.
Councillor, sorry, did you want to respond to that?
Just to say, Chair, having parish council finances, doesn't sort of distinguish between the capital and the revenue as it does in principal authorities which are bound by the capital accounting rule.
Yeah.
But as an organisation, we will treat it as capital, in the sense that it's a defined building project, although we have to account for slightly different, we will take it now.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Wakeling beat me to one point about the debtors. The other one is, bit concerned we've got 3 million in the current account at Lloyd's. I don't say they're going to go bust, but we have to be a bit careful about this.
Which is earning interest,
Well, that isn't that, is it?
Just to say, capital, I'll call you on that, that is a higher value than you would normally have, and that is because the second half of the precept arrives right at the end of September. We don't have that time to just put it out to what the capital happening.
I wonder if that might be.
Any other questions?
Just another point from again, from the budget review. I think in terms of tumble down, one of the things that was mentioned is the impact that there will be when we move the nursery there.
Yes.
I think something isn't perhaps reflected in this budget process, but certainly it is going to have a potentially major impact on the works and costs.
It is on the upside, in my view, given that we pay somebody else to lease that land currently. And I think it's a candidate for when we come to I've had a request from councillor Harris around, putting some more money into reserve for that move, so we'll consider that along with all the other requests for underspend nominations. Councillor Harris.
Yes, and can I sort of help add to what you just said, councillor Nicholson? And that is that when they start work on the building, they're hoping to use the equipment that's brought in to help that building, to help prepare the site for the nursery to move across. So that will lower the cost of the removal, as well as actually, once it moves, lower the cost of the rent that we have to pay at the moment.
So I'm going to propose the recommendation, if there's no other questions on Q2 numbers myself. Do I have a seconding? Councillor Legg, Minister. I think it's to note. To recommend full council, to recommend full council. All those in favour?
Unanimous, Chair.
No abstentions, no against.
Chair, can I also have a vote of thanks to, his team for preparation?
Duly noted on the minutes. Because it's been, it does seem a long process, and I think what's different this year, if I may say, what's different this year, certainly about the preparing the budget, of course, is that this is a budget that we're preparing for the next council, so there's sort of added responsibility really, because whatever we decide as a council, they're going to have to live with. So it's been very studious, careful, dare I say, monotonous at times, going through every line. But it will be well researched. Okay, item 9 is the information items. I'm not intending to take any questions unless there are any burning questions about actions from the previous meetings, or the forward plan. Okay. There are only 2 note. So unless I've got any further questions, I'm going to close the meeting at 7.